Are giant monster movies horror films? More specifically, the Godzilla movies. This is a topic of discussion that I've had several times throughout my life. I've always been on the side that yes, giant monster movies are a subgenre of the horror genre. But recently, I had my mind changed. My stance has always been, if a movie is creating a situation that would be horrifying to experience in real life, then it's a horror movie. A horror movie doesn't have to be scary to be classified as a horror film. And I no longer really agree with that, because that would mean a lot of movies are horror films. You know, if you were in a Transformers movie, if you were in a city that was being destroyed by giant robots, people you knew were dying, the places that you've become familiar with in your life are being destroyed right in front of you, that would be horrifying. But it's not a horror movie. And Transformers movies are very similar to other giant monster films. So my definition kind of changed. I no longer think that giant monster movies are horror films by definition. I think they're more of an action genre, but that's not, not everything's black and white. There are gray areas, and I think there are some giant monster films that are horror movies. Cloverfield, for instance, is definitely a horror movie. It is one of the least giant monster movies out there. And yeah, no, that movie plays like a horror movie far more than it does, guys in rubber suits or giant CG monsters doing battle in a city, cramped. It's kind of claustrophobic at times. It's very dark. There's some jump scares. Cloverfield's a horror movie. But what about Godzilla? That's the title of this video, and that's really what I wanted to get to the bottom of. How many, if any, of the Godzilla films are horror movies, and why do I feel that way? For the most part, I would say that the Godzilla films are action movies. I think that the movies that start to lean towards horror are like Godzilla Returns, Godzilla 1985. That movie definitely has some scenes that feel very spooky, but I still think that that movie definitely leans more towards action, especially towards the end. I also thought about Godzilla vs. Destroya, and again, like, it's very reminiscent to Aliens at some point, but the overall movie is still, while a darker Godzilla movie, still more of the action-oriented Godzilla film. Shin-Godzilla has some pretty terrifying imagery, but that movie's more like a political firestorm. I think the only Godzilla movie that currently fits my own criteria of what makes a horror film is the original 1954 film, Gojira. And why do I think that? I think that that movie has the most horrifying imagery. Choir girls praying and pleading to have their life. Children mourning their dead parents. Mothers embracing their children saying, "We'll be with your father soon." In Gojira, the city being destroyed, while breathtaking, the special effects are fantastic, especially for the time. It's not quite as fun as it is in other Godzilla movies. That idea that Godzilla is a creation of atomic weapons coming from a country that experienced that firsthand, you get the impression this might be what it's like, what it would be like to go through that, to have everything that you've come to know and love and cherish in your life is being destroyed before your very eyes. That's the whole point of the first Godzilla movie. It's a metaphor for that. I think that movie really puts forward a far more darker atmosphere than any other Godzilla movie has even come close to. And like I said, the way Godzilla shot particular scenes or moments in the movie that are very grim and horrific, that's why I would say the first Godzilla movie is in fact a horror film. And I think the only movie in the Godzilla series that is a horror movie. Like I said, I don't believe that every movie that is classified as a horror film has to be scary. I think there's a very weird gray area that you classify something as a horror film. You know what I'm saying? Like I wouldn't call Temple of Doom a horror movie, despite the fact that it's dark, has jump scares, and generally is a much spookier movie than any other indie film. But it's definitely not a horror movie. Monster Squad isn't really scary, but it's a horror movie. It's a horror movie for, younger people or for, like teenagers and stuff. So I think Godzilla, the original Godzilla, is definitely of the horror subgenre. If we were to do like a nice little family tree, how all the genres connect and correlate, there'd be, Godzilla has married into the action genre and the common ancestor. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying right now, but wow, I'm really rambling now. Nobody's watching this far into it though, so who fucking cares? Godzilla movies are not horror films, except for the first one. That's just my humble opinion. Thanks for watching if you made it this far into the video.